Hello everyone, Elite 4 Yo here, and today I ask you, what would you do if you had to spend $500 in the trading card hobby, whether that's Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh, sealed product, price your raws that I have here, massive amounts of raw cards like I have here, graded slabs over here. What is the best way to spend $500 and to see it grow? Now, this video will just include my opinion on it. Of course, I'll give you some suggestions, ideas, pros, cons on the different types of ways to spend the money in the hobby and try to come up with an answer to that question. What is the best way to make money off of a $500 investment? What we have here for your $500 amount is the ability to purchase cheap raw cards. And I have a whole collection of them here. I have a bunch of these. And just looking through here, a lot of these are going to be the V's, which are probably no more than $1, maybe $2. And this, in terms of an investment, is probably a very poor choice, right? Because investing in a large quantity doesn't represent any quality in what you're actually getting out of it. So if I spent $500 on this and I said, wow, this Radiant Alakazam looks really sweet, and it does, well, the reality is it's probably not going to appreciate much at all. So this is more for a personal collection. And I always would recommend to someone to not rip product, but buy what you want to collect. You know, if you have a personal collection of Rayquaza, for example, don't open up sealed products and just keep buying product, hoping that you're going to pull the beautiful Rayquaza from Evolving Skies. It's much better to just buy it outright than it is to hope that you actually pull it yourself. It's not as fun, but it is certainly prettier on the wallet. And that would definitely fit, I think, in your $500 budget. Now, if you were to just take this huge stack here and say, okay, this is $500 worth of cards, which it could be, I guess. I don't know who would buy it for $500. But will that appreciate at all? And my answer is definitively no, because you can't buy lower quality cards, right? You just can't expect that anything here is going to go up in value. Even though some of these may look nice, everyone loves Lucario. Reality is that this promo Lucario card, this V-Star, is pretty common. A lot of people have it. It's not going to appreciate. It's pretty easy to get. So this is not good for investment. Perfect, though, for filling out a personal collection. If you really like Umbreon, just buy the card for a few bucks. If it's cheap, it's more expensive and you're weighing, buying a booster box as opposed to hoping you pull the Moonbreon card, I would probably just buy it outright, instead of, hoping to invest, or not invest, instead of just hoping you can spend, I don't know how much a booster box is right now, but hundreds, I'm sure, and hoping you pull it. What I have here is a little different than the first example I gave on the very cheap raws. And in this example, I'm trying to tap into what I perceive are raw cards that are not just a few bucks, but are fairly rare, maybe inexpensive in the sense that they're under 30 bucks each. That's pretty much what I paid for these cards in here. So let's take a look at what I have here. So you may already see it and be like, oh, okay, yeah, these can be speculative. These are the 151 Japanese reverse Master Ball cards. I have a ton of them in here. I don't think any of them cost more than $15, $20. And this is, in my opinion, a far more fun and interesting way of investing money. But it's also not lucrative, because I wouldn't expect that there are many Diglett fans. I actually pulled this one myself. I don't think there's a lot of Diglett fans who really care about a Master Ball reverse card. So if I spent, say, let's pull out a better card here. I have a lot of these. I try to collect as many as I could afford. So the Snorlax, here's a perfect example, right? Snorlax, fairly popular Pokemon. I probably spent 20 bucks on this. Can I expect that this will double in 5 years? It's hard to say. What I like about these 151 cards, and this is subjective, is, one, I think they look really cool, especially under the right light. and they are limited. You only get one per box, so there is a low population question there. It has the potential, of course, to appreciate and go up in value, but I wouldn't fully expect that necessarily. You know, if this Moltres right here was 20 bucks, and I'm pretty sure it was, in 5 years, is it going to be worth 50 or more? It could. It could. Am I expecting that? Probably not. Am I expecting these cards, however, to appreciate more than what I paid? Yes. Or at least I'm hoping to. I'm not, psychic. But that's the general idea between investing in a bunch of cards at once that are a little more money. So if I just take out this stack here, and again, I have a lot of these Master Ball reverses. Is this a good, solid investment of $500? It's probably not the best. It's not bad. It's not bad. Like this Raichu, I would hope at least goes up. But if I were to spend $500 on reverses, I would probably not diversify it in the way that I have. I bought these, for example, because I like them. And for me, it's a collector thing. But if I were to try to invest in these in the hopes that they go up in value, then rather than buying a huge stack of these at $20, $15 each, I would just take that $500 and just buy the main ones. Pikachu, whatever the other big ones are, the starters, I guess, right? And I know the Pikachu now is probably a pretty penny, but if you could buy a bunch of them, then I would expect that to appreciate in a pretty good way. So if you are looking at buying raw cards, then the best bet would probably be very specific, more lucrative raw cards and in smaller quantity than what I did here. But who knows? Maybe this could go up. I should do another video on seeing if there's any appreciation in these cards since I bought them. That'd be kind of interesting too. So $500 as an investment. You can certainly do worse than purchasing slabs, graded cards here. I just have a bunch in this random pile of my PSAs that I just pulled. But this is probably not the best idea either. I'm firmly of the belief that graded cards are really more for collecting. They're not for appreciation. You're not expecting to buy this beautiful, and I admit it is beautiful, it's my favorite card from 151, Venusaur at say 80 bucks, or whatever the going rate is, and expect to sell it for twice that in a few years. I wouldn't expect that. I wouldn't expect that because graded cards, the market in the way it's set up now isn't really set up like that. For whatever the multitude of reasons are, and you can do your own research, but everything I've seen would suggest that the value of these graded cards typically goes down over time. It actually doesn't go up. Now, of course, that depends on the card. It depends on the Pokemon. Is it modern? Is it vintage? What is the population count? I'm speaking in a very generalization on this, and that's pretty much what I've seen. I wouldn't think that, just going through what else I have here, this Mewtwo, it's really cool, PSA 10 Mewtwo here, I wouldn't expect that something like this is going to go up. It could stay steady. You can maybe hold on to the investment. If I spent, I don't know how much this is, I'm just pulling this number out of the air. Let's say this was $75. In 5 years, I wouldn't expect it to be much more than $75 to $100. But buying graded for your collection, I think, is awesome. And that's why it's still fairly popular. People still like it for their own collection purposes. I just don't think it's a good idea for investment purposes. If I had $500 and I was to say buy all of these slabs I have in front of me right here, let's just say, in my example, I really wouldn't expect in 10 years to be significantly over $500 in value. And that's just the trend I've seen based on the slab market over the last few years. I can't base it before that, of course. It wouldn't make any sense because of the COVID boom. But that's pretty much the trend I've seen for graded cards over the last few years. Now imagine you go to a garage sale or you're looking online and someone has a lot or a binder or a storage box full of Pokemon cards, and they say, hey, it's yours for $500, right? That's always alluring, right? The idea that, hey, I can just buy a binder of cards and hopefully I can get more out of it. But that is such a tricky thing to do now, and that is not how I would spend $500. I wouldn't spend $500 on that, especially if I couldn't see the product in person. If I was buying this binder of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, this is just a random binder I have in my collection of Yu-Gi-Oh cards for $500, and I couldn't see it in person, and I was looking at pictures online, and typically the cards are going front to back, so you're not seeing the backs of the card, which is crucial when you're looking at the condition. And I would be exceptionally weary of doing that, even if there were really nice cards in that set. And I'm speaking as someone who has bought binders and collections and lots many times. But what I've noticed is going this route is that a lot of the sellers now are far more knowledgeable on what they have than they were 10, 15 years ago. And that's because it's so easy to look up the prices of things now. There's a million websites. It's not hard to do to look up, hey, what is this Dark Magician worth? Give me a ballpark figure, and then I can kind of price things out that way. So you're kind of really risking your money. It's very much a high risk, high reward proposition in buying a binder or a lot from someone, especially online, but even in person, unless that person's going to let you go through each card individually, inspect it on the condition and quality. It's very tricky. You have to really know what you're doing. You have to know what sells. You have to know what the popular Pokemon are. That's the easy part, obviously. But really it comes down to what is the condition of the cards that you're actually getting. So if I had $500 and someone offered me a binder like this, it's just an example, and said, hey, I'll sell you this and you can do whatever you want with it. Maybe if you like the cards in there for your personal collection, it might make sense. But as an investment, no, I wouldn't do that. I think it's risky, and I don't like too much risk with my money, especially if this is your first time actually investing your capital in something like a trading card. So that's one avenue. And then we get to the final option. And really, it's two different options, right? You can buy sealed and open it, which I think is the worst investment. And you can also buy sealed and hold it, which I think most people would agree that that's probably the safest investment. We'll talk about why that is, but I'll first talk about why I wouldn't open any product unless you're doing it for fun and unless you're doing it for collection purposes, in which case that's great. But if you had $500, and I'll put this aside, and said, hey, buy $500 worth of these ETBs, what are the odds that you are going to get enough of the chase cards, the Charizard in this set? I have it over here actually. I'll pull it. 1 second. What are the odds that you're going to pull these cards? And even if you pulled these cards, you would have to pull multiple of them to make more than the $500. And sure, it would be a lot of fun to do, but is that really a good investment? Hoping? See, this is more of that high risk, high reward that I'm always weary with. Sure, you could pull a bunch of Charizards, Venusaurs, and Zapdos, and what have you, and potentially make your money back, but the odds are stacked against you, so that's not something I would do. Like I said at the, I think the first video, sorry about that, you are better off for collecting purposes buying your singles, right, your single raws, and filling out your collection that way. That is a good way of doing it for collecting purposes. It's definitely not good for investment purposes. On the other end is what has become increasingly popular and common in this field, and that, of course, is buying a product, buying a sealed product. I have Spell Roller here, I have the 151 ETB, and storing it away for a very long time, most likely. And by that I mean you're probably looking at least a few years, probably longer than that, I would imagine, and hoping they appreciate. History shows us that over the last 25 plus years, that in this hobby, Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, whatever it is, that does typically happen. And in some respects, it happens in great amounts, right? I mean, just look at the prices of any booster box or ETB of a popular set like Evolving Skies when it was available first, compared to where the price of it is now. Because you are always going to be able to sell people on nostalgia, one, and the potential to pull something big, as opposed to you trying to pull it and sell it outright. So that is why, with all these different options available here, from the graded cards to the really cheap singles to the more expensive singles, you are hoping that, and I also have the binder right here, you're hoping that that $500 is going to appreciate in some way, and your best bet is probably with the sealed product. Now, is that what I would do? Well, the answer is no. The answer actually is no. I don't feel that it is the best option. I just feel that it is a not very interesting option. And I know that may sound strange, but what I'm saying is this is the most passive thing you could possibly do. Anyone can buy an ETB, they're in mass, right? You can buy dozens of them. You just need to have the space to store them safely and effectively, and sit on them, which is great. That's certainly a way to do it, and I'm sure that's really common and popular now. But it's also kind of boring, and it takes up room, and you are having some, risk, of course. What if the 151 isn't something that appreciates? What if there are so many people doing the same thing, which guess what there are, that it doesn't appreciate to a huge amount? There is guesswork in it. It's not a perfect solution. It's not a perfect investment, but it is probably the safest and also the most boring. Not that an investment needs to be fun or exciting. I just think an active investment, whether it's like something like this here, these cards, or buying cheap slabs, getting them, a bunch of them, and then watching them grow or not grow, which is my personal opinion on it, is simply more, I guess, I'll say fun. It's simply more fun. Now, $500 is a lot of money, so not everyone wants to have fun with their investment. They want to see their investment grow. So, not necessarily for the weak of heart, I guess. But in conclusion, I guess what I'm just trying to say is you have options, and it really depends on what is it that you want to do, right? Do you want to see a potential for immediate payout? Because if you want to invest $500 and you want a quick return on it, and I'm not saying double money, but if you want to, be able to flip it, you're definitely not going to be able to do that unsealed, right? That's not how it's going to work. That's where you're going to be looking at something like trying to buy low on slabs or raws, right? Cheap raws, and try to flip them. A binder or a slot or a collection. That's where you're going to be seeing that. So, in any case, that's what I have for you today. Just some little conversation pieces on this. I'm Elite 4 Yo here. See you next time.